Hello, hola, and buenas, and welcome to a special pre-recorded episode of La Cuna Galaxiana, a podcast always made with love for all you LA Galaxy fans. Thank you so much for being back here with us as we get into a special kind of episode, kind of a repeat of what we did last year around this time of the year, which is we're going to be looking ahead to 2025 with some way too early predictions, and we will hope to become wizards and brujos and come up with some good stuff and maybe some predictions. We're going to go into our receipts for last year because, like, as I mentioned, we did this last year, so we'll see how right or how wrong we were. And before we go any further, guys, I just wanted to introduce myself, one of your co-hosts, Rob Halon. You can find my written work at Extra Time Talk, and you can find me online at El Escudero de LA. And we want to wish you guys a happy holiday season. And if you're listening to this, it is now the new year. Currently, my co-host and I are sitting in the old year, back in the multiverse in which the Galaxy did win the title in 2024. But now, as you're listening to this, it is 2025. And speaking of my co-host, let me bring him back to you. He is El Gitano Perdido, El Yerno Guapo, otherwise known as Anandita Kirana, the Cosmopolitan One. Welcome. ¿Cómo estás, papá?
Man, it's a new year, right? Entonces, primero, bienvenidos a 2025. Welcome to 2025, guys. An amazing, happy new year to everyone.
Blessings.
And yeah, blessings, right? I feel like, by the way, because you remember how we always used to talk about like sound effects and stuff, we got to have that sound effect in there on top of the Kobe one that we had late last year. So we gotta, we gotta fill up that
Is that
soundboard,
the
man.
one? Is
Give
that the
me
one
bread
you
and
want?
give me bread and butter. Give me bread and
Oh, well,
no, not butter, butter. You gotta get that.
because the one I want is Holy Father. That's the one I want, man. Like whenever something pops up, Holy Father, just go off on that one like 3 times
Too
in a row.
funny. Yeah, but anyways, you can tell that we're in good spirits. I'm in a good mood. Of course, I'm still in Catalonia. I'm still, being by Ricky's side, making sure
You and
Primo's
Yof,
all
man,
good.
comiendo
Make,
rico.
making sure that the Primo's good, right? Of course, everyone's probably seen his recovery pictures. I mean, obviously he is taking it slowly and going through the steps and the procedures as he needs to. Of course, he's alongside his family, and that's what the holidays are all about. So again, a very happy 2025. But man, let's get into this because 2025 should be a very interesting year for the LA Galaxy. I'll tell you this, Rob, heading to 2024 last year when we did this, I did not think some of those outcomes, or the outcome of the season would be where it was. A huge shock to all of us, but the best shock ever, which is all the way to the top, man. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yep, straight to the moon, man. Straight to the moon. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun to go at those predictions, and then hopefully, if we don't get canceled, we'll be able to do this again next year, and we'll get to laugh at ourselves because I'm telling you, I mean, we were backstage talking about this, and one of mine, I was like, damn, that one's embarrassing by me. But that's what I was feeling at the time, and I'm glad that anyway, we'll get into this one.
Yeah. You can only report on what you see, Papa. So that's fair. You have the right to change your opinion, which is fair,
Yeah,
right?
and
Football's about opinions.
and since these are kind of just predictions,
Hot
no one
takes.
hot takes. No one expects us to be 100% correct. I hope. So anyway, that's why we're here, guys. So we're gonna be doing the hot take thing for next year, and then kind of going over those receipts for this year. But again, since you guys are here, we want to say thank you once again for supporting the show all of 2024, all of 2023. You know what it is. We're going to be back with you guys in 2025 to report on everything happening with the 2024 MLS Cup reigning champion LA Galaxy. So we're going to bring you everything you need to know. But since you're here, you guys already know how to find us. YouTube.com/at La Cuna Galaxiana. We thank you so much for subbing to the show. We're around the 410 mark. If we can get to 500, before the season starts, man, that would be so much
That'd be
love.
nice.
It would be nice, right? And speaking of 500, a couple of you guys have asked us how you guys can support, how you guys can go ahead and keep helping out this humble little pod. I mean, simple fact of the matter is, I mean, you just put some people on, right? You just tell your jardinero, you tell your coffee lady, you tell your librarian, hey, yeah, elotero, like, hey, if you're a Galaxy fan, listen to this podcast, man. So that's really the easiest way to help. If you guys want to throw some ducats at it too, I mean, you guys can do that. You guys can help out or Chata Fund, buymeacoffee.com/Lacuna Galaxiana. So you guys can go ahead and help out that way as well if you guys would like. So again, thank you so much for getting us to 410 subs, guys. Ananda and I were also on Box to Box on Goals TV. So if you guys want to know a little bit more about the origins of this podcast, go ahead and check out Goals TV and that content. Ananda, you've been teasing a Los Galacticos for a little bit. Well, what's going on with that, man?
Well, I think with all we're not going to talk. We might touch a little bit on the rumors swirling around this team, but I think there's a lot of moving pieces, man. And I feel like every time I have something, it kind of like slightly changes because of the news that's coming out, right? So, Alex and I are going to put our heads together again. I was texting Alex the other day. I was like, man, I'm enjoying family time out here. Why don't we just let the dust settle? And coming into the new year, let's see what the lay of the land looks like. But for sure, I definitely want to do one before the CVI starts. And hopefully by that point, we'll have a better idea, Rob, of what the roster was looking like heading into the CVI, right? And then maybe we can pull up some tactical things. Of course, as these transfer rumors start to become serious or start to get into the final stages of negotiations, as they say, I think maybe that's a good time to pull out some scouting videos, etc., rather than just doing one for some fluff rumors, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, depending on who you ask, as we sit here recording this on 12:30, the day before, New Year's Eve, depending on who you ask, there is a signing that has gotten across the line, and we're still trying to get confirmation on that. But as things do start to solidify and become official, we will bring you that. But yeah, man, let's just get into it, man. There were some predictions last year, and I guess do you want to read off like maybe mine and I'll read off one of yours?
That sounds good. I mean, Rob, I know you mentioned earlier that you were a little embarrassed on one of your takes, but you know what? We got some stuff right. So why don't we start with the positive,
Okay.
and then it'll go downhill from there. So
okay, do you want to start or should I start?
Let me start. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start with the ones that we did correctly because we had very similar ones, right? Our correct ones were very similar. And so I'm going to just start with that, and then I'll hand it off to you. So you mentioned that coming to last year, and this one I'm going to give you credit for, Baba. You said the Galaxy do not, I repeat, do not need a big name striker. Now, for context, guys, last year at this time, we were talking about, there were some rumors around Alexander Lacazette. There was some Lewandowski rumors sprinkled in there. So we were talking about this idea of the big name striker. Of course, Dejan Joveljic was a huge part of that equation, right? So I think that probably was around the time that we were thinking about, like, okay, do we go for one striker or one winger for the two DP signings, right? Because we had two DP slots that we needed to fill. Now, at that time, we didn't have any rumors around, no news around JP, nothing around Gabriel Peck. Those happened in the turn of the year. So I'm going to give you credit for that one, Papa. The Galaxy do not need a big name striker because you know what? We already had one on the team. His name is Deki, the chess master, Joveljic, right? So big props to you on that one. And then in conjunction, I said that, you know what, Rob? I kind of agree with you. And I said, amidst all those rumors, that the Galaxy will not, I repeat, will not make a star DP signing. And we didn't, because you know why? We turned those cats into stars, right? We turned Gabriel Peck into a star. We turned Joseph Paintsel into a star. And that was it. So I think hats off to both of us on that one. I think that showed a little bit more confidence in the team. Although we will come up with another receipt that we didn't show. We showed a little less confidence in the team. And here's the other one, Papa, before I turn it off to you. We both said that Theo Gregorio will finish out the 2024 season. It's crazy to think about that. And I'm just like, I say that statement, and it's crazy to think about that for a second. Because remember, last year we were so topsy-turvy around Greg. And I had said that coming into the season, the first 10 games of the season, if he gets anything less than, I think it was 6 points, I said, he's off, right? I don't think there's any reason for the ownership group to stick with him. But man, look what CVI and a fully, fit team coming in the preseason, all the chess pieces coming together, right? Of course, in the first game of the season, we did not have Gabriel Peck yet. We did have Joseph Paintsil, though, for the first game of the season against Miami. But man, like, it's crazy to think that, like, we thought that Greg at a certain point would not finish out the regular season and he would not be the head coach of the Galaxy. And in the end, he became a MLS Cup winning coach. So
And he, and
that's
he got and he got shafted for coach of the year.
exactly that.
I won't get sick or tired and say that one.
I love this. I love that story arc, man. Just a great redemption story. We've talked about it all season. You've chronicled how just in press conferences and stuff, Greg, just how relaxed and how just how proud he was of his team. And again, we talked about this, Rob, which is that removal of his title, right? The demotion at that point that we called it. It was the best thing that happened to him because now he focused on the thing that he loves the most, which is coaching.
Yeah, he could concentrate on the soccer, man, and you saw the difference. You really did when he was fully vested in the football side. We did talk about that Decky. The guys who don't need a big name striker. And Ananda, you might have to bring this one out for me because this one is kind of embarrassing from me. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, you want me to say it? You want me to say the blunder? Okay, so
locked and loaded. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I'm gonna throw out your blunder too, man.
So Rob said that coming to the last season, Judd will get more playing time, and that Dayon would be sold.
Y'all remember him, Preston Judd? He was on the show. Check out the back catalog.
And it's funny, when we was on the show, he was already on San Jose, right? So that move happened super quickly. But again, let's go back. Let's rewind time for a second. It just showed the faith that Will Kuntz and Greg Vanney both had in Decky, and boy, did he perform this season. So, I mean, you know what? You were wrong, Papa, but the outcome was, I think we're happier about the outcome, right? Versus being right.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think my rationale was at the time was that he didn't really seem like he was happy. He hadn't had that productive year.
Yeah.
And then that's, like you said, where that faith came into play. Like, I mean, I guess, Will, just was like, hey man, are you gonna be the guy? And Decky was like, yes, and made it happen. Well, here's one of Ananda's. And I honestly don't know, like, if in an alternate universe this one wouldn't have come off. Of a couple of things go differently. But one of his was Novak Mikovic will start more games than Jonathan Bond, obviously.
Which he did. Which he did, by the way. Which he did.
Well, he did. But I
was right.
Jonathan Bond did leave the Galaxy shortly thereafter. Of course, John McCarthy was signed and he became the starter. And so that kind of threw a wrench into this whole thing. But I think in an alternate universe, like I said, I think Novak Mikovic could have even become the starter over John McCarthy. I think there was moments there at the CVI where I think Greg was even questioned, who's going to be your starting keeper. And something that he saw out of John McCarthy in the very beginning was like, hey, no, that's my guy. And he went with it. But you were right. Technically, Novak Mikovic did start more games than Jonathan Bond.
Looking back on it, man, what a shrewd signing. We kind of questioned that signing, right? It was kind of a head turner, like, whoa, Will's bringing back one of his guys from LAFC where he won a championship. But in the end, hindsight's always 2020. But in the end, the chef knows exactly what he's doing. So very, very shrewd signing.
He done did it to him. This one, the next one, Ananda, is the one that I'm truly embarrassed about. Man.
All right. So Rob said last year that coming to 2024, Mark Delgado will lose his starting spot and bring in another midfielder. When in fact, Mark had 27 regular season starts.
Shame.
And he was arguably the team's best player in the first stretch of the
The
season,
great
right?
balancer, 3 lungs. I mean, arguably 4 lungs. This had an assist in the final. Had the assist before the assist in the Western Conference final. Started the year bang off, and uh, again, like that was one that I got really really wrong. And I'm glad I did, and because he was just a vital part of the team. So super super happy to get that one wrong. Um,
Te perdonó el Marky.
I hope so. I mean, he seemed okay with me when I talked to him in the dressing room after the Galaxy's win. Um, One of yours, and again, I think you were kind of robbed on this one. You said Ricky will be a league MVP finalist. He, in fact, was not in the final 5-player shortlist, but I have a fair hunch that a good few people would say that he deserved to be. I mean, certainly every Galaxy fan out there will be, hey, no, he definitely deserved to be on that list. If not for those 30 pivotal minutes against Seattle, then for his entire body of work over the season. No player that I know of was so integral into his side success. So I
Yeah.
think he got shafted on that one.
To be fair, I would say that maybe if Gabriel Peck didn't have the season he had, maybe that kind of took away the spotlight or sort of the MVP quote unquote status on the team, right? But again, I would rather have two really good players than one sort of like MVP or a guy that you weren't going to solely rely on, right? So I'm okay with that. But yeah, maybe I think he did get a little shafted for sure.
So I think we have one or two more, right?
Yeah, one more each. So this is Rob's last blunder, which, by the way, to me, I'm kind of glad you were not correct on this one. But you interestingly said that the LA Galaxy should wait to sign their last DP signing during the summer window and not get all their ducks in a row in the beginning. Of course, we know that we signed JP and Peck in the winter. And actually, what we signed a DP caliber player in the summer, but on a TAM deal, which is ended up being Marco Royce. So it actually ended up a lot better. And this is my argument to you, Rob, which is, and because I was listening to that episode, and it was really interesting. We had this back and forth around this idea of my argument was we got to have all the ducks in a row coming into the new season. It's a rebuild year. It's a really important year for Greg, not only Greg, but just the chemistry of the team. And you saw what happens when you have a fully ready roster. Remember, Rob, how many years have we gone into an LA Galaxy season where we said this roster is not complete? You know, there's a lot of holes here and there, blah, blah, blah. But we were ready this year, and it showed in the end.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Will even said it when we had him on earlier this year. Hey, did I mention check out that back catalog? He was talking about the fact that because we did ask him about this. We asked him about that whole concept of making stars in LA, and this the DP strategy, and he said like why basically it boiled down to why wouldn't you have him if you could, like have him from the very 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 beginning. One of the issues last year was DP availability. Why would you wait to have a DP if you could have him at the beginning of the season? I mean, hey, he's not the chef for nothing. We're gonna finish with Ananda's last one that he got wrong. The Galaxy will finish 4th. He was wrong, but the Galaxy did him even better. They finished 2nd, and we're just seconds away from we're just seconds away from taking the Western Conference, if not for a Daniel Saris goal in Houston. Damn Houston. But anyway, those were our receipts. You guys can check out that back catalog and see that we were not lying. These were the actual receipts. So now we go to 2025 edition. Ananda, do you want to hit up the very first one?
All right, so I'm gonna go to from like less spicy to more spicy, I guess. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. But if you want to do that too, that's fine, Robert. But okay, so my first one, and I don't know if I worded this right, so let me flash it up on the screen and let me explain. But I think this year Julian Aude, because I said last year Edwin Cedillo was my breakout player of the year. Oh, this year Julian Aude will be my breakout player of the year. If you want to say comeback of the player of the year, that's fine. To me, it's going to be between him and Jalen Neal. Although Jalen did have his breakout, arguably in 2022, right? I would say before he got his injury. Look, The reality is, Julian Aude, U22 signing, right? U22 slots are very lucrative in MLS, especially. So we spent it on this kid. And to be fair, Rob, last year he started the first 20 out of 22 games. But the problem with Julian is he's been constantly injured, right? He always has a little niggle, a little naggle here, and he would be out of the lineup. And to be fair to John Nelson, man, credit to John the Rock Nelson, because
John the Rock.
he got his opportunity, and boy, did he grab it
He
by the
grabbed it,
horns.
man.
He grabbed it, and he lost it. So Julian effectively lost his starting spot to John Nelson. But I think moving forward, you don't spend a U22 slot and sort of that type of investment, right, into a kid if you don't have any faith in him. And I think Julian will learn a lot from just even watching from the sidelines, Rob, and especially how John Nelson carried himself throughout the last half of the season in the playoffs. And the other thing is, I think he's going to be itching and like fighting to get that starting spot back, right? I think he's a guy that has a lot of pride. Of course, you've had the pleasure of meeting his parents, right? I'm sure he comes
So
from like
nice.
a very grounded family as well. He's got a really good backing, but no, man, this kid's got a lot of talent. I think he offers a lot more offensively than John Nelson does, and I think Greg wants to utilize sort of bombing up and down that left side more, because we've been a team that constantly attacks on the right side. I believe the stat was 44%. 43% of our attacks last year came from the right hand side. So Julian is a guy that will offer you a threat from the left side. He offers in a very, very good delivery, whether it's a cutback at the top of the box or a wicked cross, right? A la Mo Cuevas, for example, on the right hand side. So yeah, man, I think for all those reasons, I think I'm hoping that in the CVI you'll get little glimpses like I did with Edwin Cedillo. I said this guy's ready, and I'm hoping, and I'm gonna be a brujo, and I'm hoping that that Julian, I see those signs in the CVI from Julian. Hope he gets the shouts.
Well, I always talk about this, but I love it when people set me up for segues or for points. And since you brought it up, that was going to be one of mine. Was that Julian Aude will reclaim his starting spot from John Nelson? He is. You already mentioned it. He's a much more offensive minded defender. When he did play last year, he was very heavily involved in the attack. Um, and I mean, we don't have to rehash it. I mean, you went over a bunch of the stuff right now, but yeah, he offers a different threat from the left side than John Nelson. John Nelson is obviously a much more well-rounded defensive player. He did show moments where he did get forward last year, but that's not really his game. Not like Julian Aude, who like you said. To be fair to John Nelson, he got his opportunity, he took it by the scruff of the neck, and he never looked back. And I think it's a good problem to have for Greg. I mean, we're always talking about the depth problem. Who is he going to play? That's an absolutely great problem to have. Against some certain teams, he might decide to go with John Nelson for his defensive capabilities. With others, he might decide to go with Julian Aude. Who knows? But I think that on the whole, I think Julian Aude will go ahead and reclaim the spot. Before I let you go back to one of yours, Ananda, I have a couple of throwaway predictions for next year. Just really quick ones. Well, I did already bring one up in a previous show that Ricky will make his return to the field sometime in August. For me, the target dates are either Seattle at home or Miami away. MLS script writers would be wise to make that one happen. Another throwaway one is the Galaxy will white out San Diego in May. I have a really good feeling that G's will travel en masse to Snapdragon Stadium and then burn and roast in the midday sun for further troubles.
Oh.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a scorcher. And then my last kind of throwaway one, man, is Churro Fest is going to be absolutely wild. Churros for everybody. I love that. But yeah, man, go ahead and hit up your next one.
Cool. So my next one. So Rob, I don't have the graphic here. I might edit it in the video. I'm not sure, but I was looking at the depth chart of the Galaxy as it stands, right, with who is on contract and who's on this team, and the big thing that I notice is in the attacking positions, right? So I'm just going to set this up, and then my prediction will make sense. Right now, if you look at the attacking wing positions in particular, you've got Gabriel Peck, Joseph Paintsil, and really Diego Fagundes, right? We don't really have another winger because remember, right now Gino Vivi is on loan as well as Johnny Perez, right? I think Gino Vivi's loan stint ended, and I think there's even talks right now, negotiations of whether he's gonna stay in Saprissa or not. So, having said all of that, I think Rob. I think that we've got two U22 spots left, right? One of them, as we've seen in the news, it looks like we're going after a midfielder of some sort, right? Whether it's a defensive or a attacking midfielder. But I think they will spend that last U22 slot and they will sign a U22 winger, Rob. And on top of that, I believe they will sell Gino Vivi and Johnny Perez both to make room salary wise and roster wise, etc. Remember, Rob, what was that? Was that a Ukrainian or Russian winger that we were looking at? There was a brief look at that last year.
Serbian, I believe.
Something like that, right? And if I look at, that
Rukavina.
you
Was it
were
Rukavina?
correct. Exactly, right? I don't know. I feel like all signs are leading to that. Alex talked about this too a little bit when we talked about when we had the show with him, and that he thinks that Johnny Perez, I think it's time for him to go. I think that's going to break a lot of Galaxy fans' hearts. But in terms of playing time,
He's a young player. He
um,
needs to play.
yeah, I think he's gonna follow the same story arc as Daniel Aguirre, right? Greg, remember in the 2022 season, Daniel Aguirre got some pretty good playing time. He got a chance to develop himself. I remember he scored that game tying goal away at St. Louis. Sorry, 2023 season. But in the end, he just needed to play, and he was in that stage of his development. So I think the same will happen to Johnny Perez. On top of that, Johnny Perez has a pretty sizable salary, Rob. I'm just going to take a look at it real quick right now. So he is owed 308,000, right? So that's a pretty big chunk of salary.
Yeah.
So if we can get some money for him, especially to Liga MX, right? I think that's where I'll be shopping if I was Will Kuntz. See if we can get a decent fee for him for he's a Mexican national, right? You could sell him off to the Mexican league for a pretty decent chunk of change. You get rid of that salary,
You
etc.
telling me Chivas won't buy that man for like $2 million? You lying?
I mean, dude, if we sold Efra for what, one, then we're
1.2 to
then
Tijuana.
I mean, this kid, we can sell him for a few million, right? For sure. But yeah,
Yeah, it'll make me sad, but I mean, he needs to play, and he's not going to play.
He needs to play, and I think, given sort of the history of the links that we've had last year, I think given where, if I'm Will Kuntz, like he's always talked about, like value for money, and that U22, right, Rob? You can sign a $1 million salary type player, but you're only going to pay him what 150 or whatever the limit is. So I think that's where we're going to look. And I think he's trying to. The other thought that I had about this too, Rob, is remember Diego. Let me look really quick just so I'm not mistaken. Diego Fagundes is on his last year of his contract with the club option. So I think looking at the move that we're looking at with replacing Gaston, I think we're looking for a future replacement for Diego as well. And what a great way to do it than exercising the U22 sort of flexibility, right, within the MLS rules.
Yeah, and I mean, you if you don't decide to move Diego, then you have depth at that winger position. All of a sudden, you have a guy that can come in and spell either wing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I like it. I like where your head's at. Setting the team up for the future. Let's see here. Okay, this one it might be spicy, and people will be like, "What are you talking about?" I think Maya's availability will drop off next year. I think he will probably only play around 25 MLS matches, and that's through a couple of different reasons. I think that Father Time is just this unforgiving man, and the man is going to be 37, and he played basically every single minute of the MLS campaign last year. I mean, there was even some Leagues Cup matches that he played. Speaking of Leagues Cup, I mean, the Galaxy is basically in for all intents and purposes at least in 4 competitions next year. So you're going to want Amaya Yoshida in that one-off match in the Campeones Cup, right? You're going to want your captain in that match, right? So that might mean he misses an MLS Cup match 3 or 4 days before that. If the Galaxy make a deep run into the Leagues Cup, you're going to want Amaya Yoshida in the semifinal or the final, right? So that might mean he misses a day on the weekend for an MLS match. But that's where you have that depth chart that you were talking about, and somebody like Jalen Neal to come in and spell him, right? So and when I say that he's only going to be available for 25 matches, I say MLS matches, right? I'm making that very plain. Like I think Greg is going to prioritize him in the knockout competitions over the league when he can. So anyway, but I do believe that overall his availability does go down because again, Father Time is just unmatched and unbent and unbroken. So I think for all those reasons, his availability goes down, but also he's kicking around 25 to 26, 27 MLS matches for the year.
Yeah, I don't think that's a spicy one. It's funny because you like it when you lead to other segues, and I love that you brought this up because it kind of leads to my last point. But
Nice.
really quick though, do you have how many points do you have left? 1, 2? I've got one left.
I have 2 left, but I could do one. I could do one.
Okay, whatever the spicier one is, I think this is going to be my last one. But so I guess let me base off of that segue. Then I love where you're going with this, and follow me on this. So if we assume that Maya's availability is going to drop off next year, of course that leaves us Jalen, Emilio Garces, and Zabaleta. Again, I don't think Zabaleta's re-signed yet officially, but again, his contract is, I think he's out of contract, so I'm pretty sure they're renegotiating, but he's a less than $100,000 a year player. So let's assume that to be right, Rob, that Maya's availability is not going to be there. Of course, we know that Ricky, you said that he's going to be back around that August timeframe. So we're not going to have Ricky for the first 8 months of the season, which means that we will not have those, maybe a not fully available Maya, definitely not available Ricky for cup competitions and the league like CCC, like the Leagues Cup, all that stuff, right? All that fixture congestion. So I think that because of all that, I said this last time, and I'm going to double down on this, and I'm going to actually expound on this. But number one, I don't think the Galaxy are going to win back-to-back MLS Cups. And
Man,
Rob,
you swiped mine. You swiped mine.
Well, let me double down on this though, and maybe this will be my sort of I guess hotter take. We're not going to be a top 4 seed next year, Robert. I think we're going to get maybe that 5th seed. Look, if you look at the Western Conference,
we're going to be us of Seattle.
Well, correct. We may be right, and we may make a late surge like they did this year. I think you're absolutely right. That's a really, really good point. But I think about sort of the strength in the West, right, Rob? People say that the East is a strong conference, or is the stronger conference. But man, the West is retooling. I mean, even LAFC, they just signed a Bobisi, right? You're going to see a lot of teams retool with what they have. Now, granted, you've got teams like Atlanta and stuff surging in the East as well, but the West is tough. And Rob, last year, if you look at the standings, 4th place was 57 points. That was only 7 points less than the Galaxy had last year, which is, two more losses and a draw, right? Or 2 wins and a draw if you look at it the other way. So the West is going to be really, 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 really tough. And if you look at the lack of availability with Maya, with the fixture congestion, etc. Now, granted, we're going to be competitive because I know this because Will Kuntz is going to build a competitive roster, but you need difference makers like Ricky Puig. That's a huge piece, man. That's missing. I can't stress that enough. A DP chess piece out of your MLS roster. You could survive that like we did in one game, in a one-off game in a final, right, against New York Red Bull, but across a 34 game season with 2 cups, potentially 3. I don't know if we're going to be in US Open Cup, but potentially 3 cups on top of that, bro.
And the
that's
one-off
just
campeones.
Right. And I think that's just going to be too much to ask, man. And you're right. I think you bring up a good point. We might have the same arc as Seattle, but I don't think we're going to be a top 4 team next year, and I don't think we're going to win back-to-back MLS Cups.
So you stole mine. So I guess like
too much headwind.
I said I had 2, so you stole one of mine. So I guess I'll give you the other one. But piggybacking off yours,
yeah,
Galaxy do not repeat as back-to-back MLS Cup champions, but they do win a trophy in 2025. Remember, they are still in the Campeones Cup, they're in the Leagues Cup, and they're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think they do end up winning one of these trophies. Of course, the easiest one is that one-off Campeones. Which is still a trophy, man. It's still silverware. Of course, the big one would be the CONCACAF Champions Cup. If they win the Leagues Cup, cool. It's a trophy, but really the one, and I've said it before, the one I really want is the that CONCACAF Champions Cup. I do think they win a trophy in 2025.
I think that's tough. The only say I'll say to that, I don't, I'm in disagreement with you, but the only thing I'll say is if we build the roster like, Will uses those U22 slots, we get some of these signings over the line, like, these South American talents, etc., that will provide some steel, some graft right in the midfield in those key areas where you're going to have key battles in those international sort of or continental competitions. I think that might change my mind a little bit, but just not having Ricky Puig, man, he's such a difference maker. You need those in cup competitions. So I'm in disagreement with you, but I mean, I'd rather be wrong in that particular case. So we'll see.
Yeah, be wrong. Be wrong. It's all good. You'll reward the faith later. Okay, so since you gave that one out, I guess I was gonna save this one because I wasn't really sure about this one, but yeah, I'm gonna throw it out there. I think that either Dayon or Gabriel Pecci will be sold before the end of the season. One of the two.
And what are you thinking behind that?
I think that somebody's going to come in for with like just an obscene amount of money for one of them, that or not obscene, but like, in the case of Gabriel Pecci, it might be obscene. They might be like, all right, here's 32 million, and the Galaxy's going to be hard pressed to turn down 32 million. With Decky, it might be like something more like a 10 to 12 million, and Galaxy are like, hey, that's a good return on our investment. Let's make it happen. His salary did go up. We can invest that money, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think it's that they're going to be looking to get rid of one of these two players. I think that just some team is going to be like, yo, I like what they're doing, man, and come in with a good transfer offer, and the Galaxy are just going to be too tempted to take it, man.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I would
happens
probably
to successful teams, man. Like they get picked apart.
I would probably tend to agree more so with Decky than Peck, right? Because Decky's had quite a long run with the LA Galaxy. He's been with the team like 4 years now. Rob, this is going to be his 5th season, if I'm not mistaken. So
but the earning potential is higher with Gabriel Pecci. So you're very right. Decky is the more likely one to go, but you're gonna tell me like a Novu-ish team out there in Europe isn't like, let a la Nottingham Forest, let's just throw money at some fools, it might happen, man.
Well, I'm thinking of in terms from the player's perspective. I mentioned this a few times in the last few shows, which is I think he wants to break into that 2026 Brazil national team, and I think the Galaxy will be the best platform for him to do that. He'll get consistent starts and minutes. Now he's in bigger competitions as well. And the other thing too is from the Galaxy's perspective, I think they want to ramp up his transfer value so much. And then what happens to transfer values when these players have good tournaments, right? Their transfer value goes through the roof. I mean, you saw Dani Olmo's transfer value after that, the Eurocopa last year, and he went to Barcelona for a nice little fee, right? So
now he cannot play.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Yeah, so you've seen that happen before. Alexis Sanchez to Arsenal when he had that great run with Chile. So in Copa America. So there you go, man. Or sorry, in the World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the hot take. One of them gets sold. But you're right. More likely, Decky than Gabriel Pecci, and hopefully neither one of them. And hopefully, if it does come to pass that I'm right, it is because some team comes in with an obscene amount of money, and the Galaxy are just like, well, damn, I guess we have to take that. That's just like an obscene amount of money. We have to, right? Which then we know that Will Kuntz will reinvest very, very wisely. So, but yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our hot takes. There's something really spicy in there, though, right?
Yeah, and we didn't say like Greg will get fired by the end of the season or nothing crazy like that, right?
Yeah, like wasn't there like a rumor that Will Kuntz was trying to sign Carlos Vela last year at the beginning of the year, like some kind of some kind of tomfoolery like that. It would have been crazy. We'd be like, you know what, the Galaxy are about to sign Carlos Vela. That would have been a stupid hot take, but
Yeah, well, I was just that just got me thinking. Like, I'm just at a better headspace with this team because remember, this team I felt like before was unpredictable, but
yeah,
now I think we're predictably predictable in the best way, in the most positive way. Right? We know the DNA of the team that Will Kuntz is trying to construct.
there's
So,
much more stability, you know.
well,
So
and
that
there's
doesn't
no
breed for hot takes like some like wild conjecture, right?
Yeah, like for example, like there's no conjecture for neither of us about like, oh, the Galaxy will sign Ronaldo in 2025. Like that's no longer that type of sort of
Fanciful
viewpoint on
thinking,
the
you know.
team, or just like, yeah, that type of like either DNA or just mindset into roster construction that no longer exists. And I again, I'm just in a better headspace with this team in terms of I know what this team's trying to be. I know what the type of team that Will Kuntz is trying to construct, and we're just very shrewd with our business, man. Will Kuntz's signings has hit every single one of them, which I mean, we talked to Jose about this last year, or in 2024. It was just, it's absolutely, I said it was kind of ridiculous, and Jose was like, no, it is absolutely ridiculous that Will Kuntz has hit on all of his signings. So there you go, man.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's funny because as you say that the Galaxy aren't moving like that anymore. There were a couple of you know, rumor drops with big names in Europe for the Galaxy, mostly unsubstantiated, but you know, it's just funny to see players that you're like, nah, that's not gonna happen. Get linked with the Galaxy, right? I don't think
Yeah.
they're moving like that anymore. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our prediction episode, our way too early LA Galaxy predictions for 2025. We hope you guys enjoyed. And then, you know, a year from now, you guys are able to go back to this episode and fact check us and be like, you guys are whack. You guys got it
Yeah.
all wrong.
When we win back to back MLS Cups, you guys can all clown us. It's all good.
Hey, and I'll be so happy to be wrong. I mean, stairway to seven, right? Anything to be wrong for that, for sure. So, guys, we do want to thank you for joining us once again on another episode of Lacuna Galaxiana, which is, it's crazy because this will be the first episode of 2025. Ananda, does that mean it's like the first episode of season 3, or is it like the last episode of season 2? Because it's like pre-recorded, and you know, it's not with some chat in there. Like, what does it mean? Is it
I'll,
is it is it the end of season 2 or the beginning of season 3?
I don't know. Let's figure it out. In the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because you know what? We are not canceled and we're still here, Rob.
You know, there's still a couple hours left in 2024. Anything can happen. Let's see if we can't get canceled before then. No, just playing. But guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Lacuna Galaxy on the chat. We did miss you. So come back and hang out with us again when we are back to our regular live schedule on Monday, January 6th. We'll go ahead and bring you everything you need to know on all the LA Galaxy rumors, what's happening in the Galaxy line, the Sphere, you know, anything that we hear about the CVI, and much, much more. Until then, my co-host and I, the Cosmopolitan one, signing off from Barcelona, Spain. We want to thank you once again for listening to this humble little pod. Go ahead and put someone on, let them know to subscribe, get those likes in, and thank you once again. Only one thing left to say.
Dale.
Wait. Should it change from G's up to champs up? Nah, let's go old school.
Nah.
G's up. Tu y yo